She didn't slow down. My next thought was get the hell out of the way. I was just freaking out. The next thing I know, she's sitting there with her head in my lap, just huffing at me. I was very terrified. I thought to myself, you need to either eat me or get off of me. My temper was starting to get the better of me. So I reached up and punched her in the nose. I come back with my other hand, and she bit through my thumb. And I got to looking around, trying to find my gun. She was sitting on it with her hind legs. Just picked me up and shook me like a puppy with a sock. It felt like vice on your leg. And then I thought to myself, oh, you're dead right there. When she got done shaking my leg, she just kind of dropped me. I think she was just gonna see if she'd done enough damage that she could just leave me there.
As long as Bram keeps still, the bear thinks he's no longer a threat. The moment he moves, the bear attacks again. Back up the mountain, Bram is taking stock of his wounds. Adrenaline is pumping through his body, so he has no idea how badly he's hurt.
I noticed my shoulder hurt. My head was bleeding, but I didn't really know what all the wounds I had.
Bram has been savagely mauled. The bear has ripped his scalp and bitten deep in several places. But the adrenaline is stopping him from feeling the worst of his injuries. Standing up for the first time since the attack, Bram is in for a shock.
Ah! Ah!
His right thigh has been ripped from the bone.
My upper thigh was just shredded. You could see the artery in there just pulsing, and then just big slabs of meat just kind of hanging loose. I pulled the meat back up and kind of laid it back in the hole. I wrapped my hunter's orange vest around the wound and kind of tried to tourniquet it a little bit. It hurt pretty bad when I pulled it down tight. First thing, I sat there and I shot 3 shots like they teach you in hunter safety, and it's, you know, it's supposed to be the universal signal that I need help. Somebody's supposed to come find you.
Come on! Damn! Help!
When no one responds to his distress signal, Bram's hopes of being rescued begin to fade.
And I sat there for maybe 10 minutes thinking, you're an idiot. Nobody's gonna come get you. You hear 3 shots all the time. You never go look for anybody. So I had to decide what I was gonna do. And I just decided I better get up and get going.
But walking with such terrible injuries is nearly impossible. Bram must get off the mountain quickly. If he doesn't get help soon, his injuries will kill him.
Help!
The guys have delayed the day's jump until the afternoon. There's been a storm in the morning, but by lunchtime, the skies have cleared.
Cloud's gonna blow over.
It was sunny, you know, some white clouds, but nothing stormy. Minus the intermittent clouds, things that day looked like they would be just the same as the day before.
Hey, Bradley, what's up, buddy?
So we all started getting our rigs together and getting our gear on to get ready to go skydiving.
Yeah, good to go. Ready? Let's go, Jimmy, baby.
The plane we flew down there was a Cessna 206. It was a small airplane, smaller than probably most cars.
All right, my man.
Planes for skydiving are generally, they'll take out the seats. So it's basically an open compartment in the back, and we'll sit back to leg, you know, so kind of sit in a row so that we're packed in there nice and tight, you know.
Okay, blue skies, safe landing.
Fire up, baby. Jump up, ready?
Yeah.
Nervous, man? You look nervous.
A little bit.
The atmosphere on board is light-hearted.
I was there.
But as the plane climbs, the weather begins to close in.
We're expecting at some point to come out above the clouds. But we just never did.
With no break in the clouds in sight, the guys decide to turn back.
Okay, guys. It's too thick.
It's just not worth taking the risk.
We were a little disappointed, but we all skydive a lot, so it wasn't a big deal, you know, we'd get over it. We're used to clouds and, you know, you don't jump through clouds generally, so it was fine.
But as the plane turns and makes its way back to base, they hit serious trouble.
Within 20 seconds after we started going into minor turbulence,
God, I hate this car.
it just got worse and worse.
Okay.
Then the plane started going into massive turbulence. I was definitely not a happy camper, you know. I didn't want to be in a little tiny plane flying crazily all over the sky.
No.
Seconds later, the plane begins to lose control.
The plane was just going haywire. It even started to tilt. I was on the ceiling, I was on the floor, I was on the ceiling, I was on the floor. I was frightened. At that point, there wasn't much we could do except ride it out or jump out.
Get the lag.
With the plane now hurtling towards Earth, Will and his friends have no option but to take drastic emergency action.
And at that point, we all started going for the door, trying to get it up. It was the only thing we could do. It took us 4 tries to get the door open because we were being thrown about the airplane so much.
Despite not knowing how high they are, and if they have enough time to parachute properly, they dive into the void.
Once that door was open, my butt was out of that airplane. I did not want to be there. I knew that. I trust my skydiving equipment. I trust my parachute, and I did not trust that airplane at that point. I just got out. 5 to 8 seconds later, my automatic parachute went off, which means I was going at a very fast velocity at about 700 feet. We were very low in very low cloud cover, and it was a shock to me. At that point, I looked around for my friends. I saw Jimmy under his canopy as well, going the other way quite a distance off, and Manny was under his canopy next to me, flying parallel to me.
Will is desperate to know that his old friend, Manny, is okay.
I kept calling out to him to try and get his attention so that we were coordinated on landing. But he never answered. He was just kind of limp, you know? His head was hanging down, and my assumption at that point was that he got hit by the airplane coming out. It occurred to me that he might be dead.
Just seconds after jumping, Will is now hurtling towards Earth at 40 miles an hour, with absolutely no idea where he might land.
The plane crashed in the water behind me, and I looked back and saw the tail of the plane sticking out of the water. I was in somewhat shock at that point.
Will has hit the ocean, still attached to his parachute rig, and he must act fast to avoid drowning.
If you land in water, you want to get your chest strap off so that you can take your gear off immediately and swim under the parachute. At that point, it was really about focus and trying to do the right thing, so if there's a chance of survival, that you survive. It took me 2 or 3 minutes, and that was a pretty scary feeling because you can actually get tangled up in the lines and drown.
On surfacing, Will's first thoughts of his friends. They've also dived out of the plane. One of them, Manny, seemed in serious trouble.
I removed my shirt and my shoes because I wanted to be able to freely swim over and find Manny. I felt the need to act fast because if Manny was unconscious, then it was important to get to him and keep his head out of the water.
Manny! Jimmy! Manny!
He wasn't answering me. I didn't see his parachute. I didn't see anything.
Manny! Is there anybody there? Don't worry.
So I swam around toward where I thought he would have landed. I didn't even see a lick of him.
With his friends gone, Will quickly has to face up to his complete isolation.
Hello?
I accepted the fact that I was alone in a pair of shorts in the middle of the ocean. There was nothing. The plane went under. I saw no parachutes, no Jimmy, no Manny, no nothing, except ocean.
Stranded miles out in the Pacific Ocean, Will is overcome with a feeling of complete hopelessness. And he can see no way out.
All of a sudden, there was just a noise from the top of a mountain. At first, I thought it was something like an animal. It was so strange and unearthly. I'd never heard anything like it before. And then I realized that this is an avalanche. I was transfixed. I'd never seen an avalanche before. In a way, it was perverse. I just wanted to look at it. I should have turned and run, but it's just something so big and magnificent.
But Ken has no time to lose. Each passing second brings him closer to death.
I turned my back on it and run as fast into the forest as I could possibly make it. And all the time I could feel like it was chasing me. My heart was beating, it was just going crazy. It was going to hit me, bury me. I thought I was going to die.
Ken dives to safety in the nick of time, and the avalanche is funneled down the firebreak.
It would have definitely killed me without a doubt. I was pretty shaken for a while. And then when I realised I was safe and I calmed down, then I just started to laugh.
He's had a narrow escape, but he's still in danger. The snow on these upper slopes is unstable.
After the avalanche, I began to feel really vulnerable on the slope. I need to find somewhere safe to sleep. So I wanted to drop down, get deeper into the forest, sleep for the night, and still possibly be able to make an ascent the next day.
It's now a race to descend to safer ground before nightfall. But through the trees, the going quickly gets tough.
But the terrain became more treacherous. Branches were poking in my eye. It was becoming a bit of a nightmare.
The rough terrain and the slope of the mountain forces him back onto open ground. The mountain is about to show him how lethal it can be. This time it's on him in an instant. It's run or die.
I ran as fast and as frantically as I could. I was running for my life. And then the next thing I knew, it pulled me off my feet. I was utterly terrified. It swallows you and engulfs you. You can feel all your bones and organs inside, everything's rattling. All of a sudden, I was falling. And then I was thinking, this is really bad. I landed on my ass and I heard a massive crack. And that was my pelvis shattering and the head of my femur snapping off. I must have lost consciousness. I lay there, not knowing what was happening or where I was. I couldn't really feel anything. It was dark.
The fall has inflicted a bloody gash to his head. But Ken is about to discover that his body has suffered a far more deadly blow.
The pain finally hit me. It was absolute agony. It was like a red-hot poke was just being pushed into the side of my leg.
The impact has broken his femur and smashed his hip joint through his pelvis, shattering it to pieces. Bone fragments have severed blood vessels around the pelvis, causing internal bleeding and making his core body temperature plummet. In this extreme environment, his injuries could prove fatal. Ken knows it's bad, but is unaware of the full extent of the damage.
I sat up and started assessing my situation. As I put my hand to the side of my leg, my left hand felt wet and sticky, and I got a big open wound on a couple of inches on the side of my left hip. It was bleeding quite heavily.
He needs to act quickly to prevent further loss of blood, which could harm his chances of survival.
I managed to force myself to roll on my side. Pulled a first field dressing from my pocket. And that seemed to stem a flow of blood. And after I dressed it, I pulled my trousers back up and I decided not to look at it again. My natural instinct was to get up and walk. My leg was in pain, but I wasn't sure if it was broken. I felt a jolt of agonizing pain shoot up my leg, and it became apparent that there was no way in hell I could walk. My leg was gone. It was a pretty desperate situation.
He's in urgent need of medical attention, but he's 8 miles from the nearest village and has no mobile or satellite phone. With military discipline, he's packed for the harsh conditions, but the avalanche has torn off his backpack and buried it further up the mountain.
I was deprived of all my provisions, my sleeping bag, my stove, my meals, everything I needed to survive.
Nobody knows where Ken is or the danger he's in. If he's to cheat death, the stamina and self-reliance that brought him here must now get him out. But he faces a tough dilemma. Go up in the vain hope of finding his life-saving kit, or conserve precious time and energy and descend in search of help.
It was a real tough decision to know what to do. The implications of making the wrong decision were deadly.
He then spots his torch, which has fallen from his backpack and miraculously turned itself on.
This torch was now my best means of survival. If I could get the torch, and I'd possibly have a chance, even if it's a small one, of finding my other items of kit. I'd have a bit more food. I'd have a sleeping bag. It was small distance, but it was so painful and so difficult to cover the ground.
Ken finds his hat and a waterproof sack before eventually salvaging his torch. But hopes of recovering his backpack and sleeping bag are futile. His route is blocked by a vertical ledge.
Under normal conditions, I could have negotiated it effortlessly. But like this, it was impossible.